Coming up next, the Bookening concludes. For now, it's talks upon the novel Jane Eyre. Hey everybody, my name is Nathan Albertson. I'm your humble and obedient host. Let's get right to it by introducing Brandon Chasteen.
Hey.
What was the thing we were calling you recently?
Ghost Brandon.
Ghost Brandon. How you doing, Ghost Brandon?
Still ghosting it up.
And you're also the scholar of reading.
I am.
And we've, of course, got Jacob Menzel, the pastor, who's a master of reading. Beastmaster Funky Town himself, Jake.
Yo.
Wicca.
Got a haircut he's not happy with, has been wearing a hat nonstop since.
Is that
True.
the explanation for the hat?
Indeed.
True or
Yes.
false, Jake? You wear the hat to bed.
False.
Yeah. No, your name is Brandon.
Get us up to $800 and Jake will post a picture of his bad haircut on Patreon.
True.
Get us up
Look,
to...
it's not a... I have a good barber.
Mm-hmm.
You think he listens to this?
My barber does not listen to this. But
You gave him some bad
I've
instructions?
talked to my barber. Yes, I had one of those moments where I was just like, it's time for something completely different.
Mm-hmm.
And the barber was like, we could do this or that. And I was like, that sounds too hip and cool. How about you do something completely different? And the barber was like, I could just like chop it all off. And I was like, yeah, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
And so the barber then chopped it all off. And then I was like, why did I tell you to do this?
This isn't cool.
It's not as cool as I thought it would be.
And the barber was like, yeah, I know. I kind of told you that. And I even disavowed any responsibility for what would happen, especially with your wife. And I was like, true, you did. You were like, I'm not responsible for what happens once I do this. And don't you blame this on me to your wife. And I was like, yeah, okay. So anyhow, it's all on me.
It's on you. You know who else wanted something different, Jake? Bruce Jenner.
What?
Now, I asked the barber to give me a number 5 on the sides this last time.
That's pretty long on the side.
Yep, that's what I did.
Looks like you got what you wanted.
That's not a compliment.
I wonder what Mr. Rochester would have used as his razor length.
What would Mr. Rochester... We asked the good questions on the book, the deep questions. What would Mr. Rochester have used for his razor length, Brandon?
For some reason, I get the sense that he was close-shaved.
Really?
Yeah, like that actor from Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
I would have said he had a haircut like one of these dirty hippies.
I was going to say no clippers touch Mr. Rochester's head.
So you guys see him as having long locks.
We got scissor cuts.
Yeah, we're talking about John Lennon. I mean, in terms of what famous person from history I would, from 20th century history, I would put Mr. Rochester
So strange.
up with.
You know the actor from Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Who's the lead singer?
Bob Hoskins?
That's who I imagined as Mr. Rochester.
Who's the lead singer of like Dashboard Confessional?
So you guys are imagining the emo guys.
Yeah, this book is so emo, dude.
But the way she describes him at the beginning is square-jawed, squat, and ugly.
Okay, so it's a Brandon.
Yeah, Bob Hoskins.
Bob Hoskins.
I mean, I think Bob Hoskins could potentially play me in a movie.
Brandon, I don't really think you're square-jawed.
I love you too,
Bob
Nathan.
Hoskins is anywhere near as ugly as you are.
No, Brandon, you're not.
Wow.
Ugly. You're much more beautiful than Bob Hoskins could ever dream of being.
Thank you.
Bob
Hashtag
Hoskins.
beautiful Brandon.
I think you're a fine-looking gentleman, and the important thing is you've got a soul, and
I do have a soul and it will never die.
it will never die.
And you know your children's catechism.
And you know your children's catechism.
I do. I am not Rochester, so we have established that. So
No.
that leaves you or Jake.
Which one of us is the most Rochesterian?
Yeah.
Well,
I'm the Holden Caulfield of the group.
Yeah, that's true. And I'm the whore,
Yeah.
as far as great literary characters go.
And Jake was laughing over there.
Yep.
Because who's the real Holden Caulfield here?
Jake probably thinks we're both corny as HE double hockey stick.
Is Jake the Holden Caulfield?
I must be, yeah.
Are you Holden Caulfield? I can see it. You're Holden.
There might have been a time. I think Nathan's the real Holden Caulfield.
Nathan's
in this
I
group.
will confess, I think, to being the most Holden Caulfieldian of the group.
I don't think there's even any question.
I think
there's
most
not.
of our listeners would probably say I'm the Holden Caulfield of the group.
Absolutely.
I mean, I have my Holden Caulfield moments. but
I think
am
we're
not
all Holden
I think we
Caulfield.
all do.
Yes, but I am not Holden Caulfield. But
But
this
of
is
all
not.
the Holden Caulfields,
I'm the Holden Caulfield deist.
yep. You can even finish my sandwiches.
Yep. I can't finish your sandwiches. Let's get to it. Last episode, we started to talk about, I'm just going to tell people why last episode was short. Last episode was short because we got off on talking about really personal stuff that we can't share with you.
You know, the fact is, what we really legit do is discuss these books as three friends in a room. And sometimes three friends in a room get personal with each other and with their lives and with other things in their lives in a way that's not appropriate for y'all to be listening in on. You can be flies on the wall for a lot of things, but sometimes we go places where it's not right for y'all to be flies on the wall.
But I'll give you a hint. 2 words. Brandon, cocaine.
Lots of cocaine.
Problem. That'll be the third word.
Yeah.
And,
I have a problem. It's okay, though. I'm getting better.
Yep.
I'm in a sanitarium outside of California.
Mm-hmm.
Don't
My
go
brother-
chasing waterfalls, Brandon.
I won't.
Stick to the rivers and lakes that you're used to.
Those waterfalls are so beautiful, though.
Let's just get to it. Let's talk about, this is the episode. This is the episode we've been building towards with Jane Eyre because we started to get into it last time, but this time.
Why does it feel so anticlimactic? I've got to talk about this guy.
Rochester.
He's the worst part of the book.
Rochester?
Yeah.
Rochester? No, he's not.
Well,
False.
St. John or St. John.
St. John is kind of
The
dangerous.
men are the worst part of this book.
True.
The last half of this book is the worst part of this book.
Also true.
Yes, but
As soon as he puts on a gypsy's dress, this book goes off the rails.
but it's still a super entertaining thrill ride of a book that takes you all the way to the end.
It takes you all the way to the end.
It
You
does.
don't end up jumping off the train.
No. Yeah, I mean, I don't.
I was kind of gape-jawed quite a bit of it, but
Oh, yeah. I mean, the fact that she had the audacity to put Mr. Rochester in a gypsy's dress, it's just like a weird. I assume the movie doesn't do that. Are we gonna watch that movie?
no, I don't know. Are we going to really spend 5 episodes on Jane Eyre?
It's a classic. People love Jane Eyre. I feel justified in spending as many episodes as we want, but we're going to do Catcher in the Rye first. We might come back and do the movie later, folks. I think we will, actually, because I kind of want to watch that Fassbender movie, and we might as well talk about it.
That ugly old Fassbender.
Ugly old Fassbender. All right, let's do this. Rochester. Let's talk
Rochester.
about Rochester.
I just made the claim that he is maybe, if not the worst part of this book, one of the wildest at least.
You know, let me make a mild diet defense of Rochester.
Okay?
He's entertaining. I
Why is
like
that a
reading.
defense?
It's not a defense. It's just, I don't know. No,
It's a defense of a character like Rochester existing. It's not a defense of a character like Rochester being the masculine ideal hero that's set up for women reading this book.
All right, let me.
People
let me,
can't see my hand motions,
Yeah,
but
no.
I'm vigorously agreeing.
giving
with
Jake the finger. No, you're not. You're
I'm pointing at him.
you're pointing at him to say
in
yeah.
agreement. Yeah, those are the points that need to be made.
All right. Well, let me just play devil's advocate here, even though I know you're right.
He
and I
and
agree with
Holden
you.
Caulfield would be best friends.
All right, devil's advocate.
Who would make a better husband, Rochester or Holden Caulfield? I kind of
Go
think
with
Holden
Caulfield.
Caulfield.
Yep.
Holden
Yeah,
Caulfield.
Caulfield's
Here's the
moldable
thing.
at least.
I hate the. So here's an early.
Caulfield can end up in a good place.
Right.
He's young.
Yes.
He's stupid.
He's got some ideals.
He's going
though,
through the
and-
kinds of things that everybody who ends up being actually a good person sort of goes through.
I went
And he
through
actually
him.
shows some discernment and wisdom about things that is pretty heartbreaking.
Yeah, while also having a real lack of self-knowledge that is terrible.
Right.
It is. But
But-
he's young and immature.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Rochester as a fully formed individual versus Holden Caulfield as a unformed person with some potential. Give me Holden Caulfield.
Even blinded Rochester, who can live the rest of his life with you in apparently perfect mental unity.
Mm-hmm.
As if
Is
there
less
were
desirable than
invisible
Holden
strings
Caulfield.
attaching
Yeah.
their ribs to one another.
Oh.
I mean, obviously, I have this relationship with my wife,
Can
but
we
I don't
talk-
think everybody has.
What is the phrase? Can I see your book, or can you just look up the last chapter and
Here.
read us like?
Catch it.
Yeah.
That's what it
It's
deserved.
like 8 pages flew out of the book there.
I'm gonna read you guys, and you guys are gonna tell me whether your marriage is as good as their marriage.
It's better because it's not a figment of Charlotte Bronte's imagination.
Watching all the subscriptions.
all right. Now,
Listen,
Come back.
Listen, y'all Patreon subscribers, you don't like this take, you unsubscribe right now.
Oh,
oh,
snap, shenane.
You ask, ask me if I care. Like, who are we here for? What are we here to do? Are we here to just pander
Jake,
to all this?
The Bookening doesn't pander.
No.
We have proven that. We have the audacity to rank the Harry Potter books.
We did rank the Harry Potter books.
This is so.
Yeah.
We ranked.
This is a
them.
serious thing. Somebody was like, I really love the Bookening until they
Had the audacity, the unmitigated nerve.
And if you're back
suggest
listening
that
again,
there
hi.
may be some difference in quality between some of Rowling's books.
And that there might actually be some wavering quality in Rowling's abilities to be a writer. I mean, you people with your literature worship.
All right.
People with,
Can I say one thing that I love
and it's go
about
ahead.
this book? The beginning of the first sentence. Reader, I married him. Isn't that a nice sentence? Isn't that just like a cool... Yeah. She always knows how to like get you back in and just be like, I'm a dude, kind of.
It reminds me of the end of Persuasion.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think...
You looked at me like you were very confused.
We'll come back to that.
The character of Jane Eyre that is created by Charlotte Bronte is...
so strong and so
genius.
well.
It's just pure genius. Like, Jane Eyre is an amazing literary figure.
There's a reason every woman falls in love with this book, and it's not... the immature ones might fall in love with Rochester, but we can forgive the more mature ones falling in love with Jane.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for most of the mature women who have loved this book, it's not been about Rochester. It's been about Jane and Jane's own sort of hero's journey. Right? Like, and seeing themselves in Jane and aspiring to have the strength and the inner strength and will and indomitable spirit of Jane Eyre.
Like, and I can think of a few novels that are this direct in just addressing the reader and having this kind of close relationship with the reader that came before this. I mean, actually, Catcher in the Rye is a good example of something that's kind of maybe in its lineage, but a book that's just like reader, and she's kind of gushing, I married him. There's something sweet and fun, and you just feel like she's there telling you the story. And
yeah, Jane Eyre is as fully realized of a character, a literary figure as you could want to have. She makes sense. She's consistent. She is likable.
Mm-hmm.
She is psychologically real in every way. And
we can argue about whether Bronte knows she's flawed or not, but she's flawed.
She's flawed. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it's a beautiful depiction of a very real person and a real sort of heroine, I think.
Yeah.
But what she thinks about men, what she thinks about Rochester and St. John, that's messed up.
No, it is messed up, and we'll get to that. But I just want to say, I like Jane. I like that she's able to be respectful to the people around her while keeping her own counsel. I think she's a good depiction of a strong woman, the kind of strong woman, minus the stuff we're about to talk about. You know, if you can forgive some horrific 50 Shades-ian romanticism on Charlotte Bronte's part.
And
Jane
it is 50 Shades-ian, but I think it's forgivable when you consider, I mean, everything that she's been through. Like what Jane Eyre has been through, like she's doing incredibly well for herself. Even in marrying a Rochester, although you could easily make the case that she deserves better.
Well, she deserves exactly what she gets, actually. I mean, I think she's flawed in being attracted to a Rochester, and she ends up with a Rochester, and that's fine. That actually makes psychological sense. The problem... go ahead. I'm about to read the problem.
This is what does not make sense.
Right, and we've been building to this, and this is basically going to be the rest of the episode, plus St. John.
So drum roll, please.
My tale now draws to its close. I have now been married 10 years. I know what it is to live entirely for and with what I love best on earth. I hold myself supremely blessed beyond what language can express, because I am my husband's life as fully as he is mine. No woman was ever nearer to her mate than I am, ever more absolutely bone of his bone and flesh of his flesh. I know no weariness of my Edward's society. He knows none of mine, any more than we each do of the pulsation of the heart that beats in our separate bosoms.
Whoa.
Consequently, we are ever together. Oh, this sounds like a drag. To be together is for us to be at
sounds
once.
Like a nightmare.
To be forever. This is like a Twilight Zone. Be careful what you wish for kind of thing. To be together is for us to be at once as free as in solitude, as gay as in company. Mm-hmm. Oh, please. We talk.
I believe he is as gay as in company.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it is gay. Brandon, we talk. I believe all day long. To talk to each other, it's but a more animated and an audible thinking.
Oh.
All my confidence is bestowed on him. All his confidence is devoted to me.
Yeah.
We are precisely suited in character. Perfect concord is the result.
Yep.
And then he gets his vision back, which is fun.
And no woman...
100% word I can't say on this podcast.
No woman has ever been misled by that representation of matrimonial bliss.
Brandon, I feel like you're being sarcastic.
No, Nate.
I feel like women have been misled by that.
What's going on? Radiohead, how'd you get in here?
I am transforming into a literary accuracy robot. Women are being misled constantly by this bull crap is the closest we could come to Jake's word.
Exactly, spot on.
What is love? Someone teach me what is love. Does it mean perfect unity and hanging out with each other every moment of every day?
Don't hurt me no more.
I've got a fiance, guys. Tell me, because what I'm expecting is that we will spend every waking moment of every day together, and our hearts will be and to talk to her.
Let me give you some real talk.
But a more audible thinking.
Talk,
one day
man.
you're
real
just going to want to stitch your hearts together. And
the first 10 years of your marriage are going to be the worst 10 years of your marriage. Sorry.
Oh no.
Yeah.
That's just not how it works. It's not how it works.
But Jake, talking to my fiance is like a more audible thinking.
Yeah, if you're thinking as a crazy person.
Are you marrying a man? Like, are you like?
No, Jake. Our minds are so one that it's a more audible thinking. I don't know what that means, but it means like because I love my thoughts so much. And I love being in my head so much. Like, that's such a joy to be in my head. Like,
the important point is that it's
you married
unity.
a perfect reflection of yourself.
You know what? Forget irony. I'm just going to say what's wrong with this. How horrible to be in your head. Like, a more audible version of my thinking. I'm stuck with the inaudible version of my thinking. It sucks. It's horrific.
Yeah, thinking about my wife saying...
You need something different than you.
Yeah.
Namely, woman. Because you're a man.
Jordan Peele, get on this. It sounds like a wonderful book.
I was thinking that because I just saw the movie, and it would be a good Twilight Zone. It would be like, this is a horror story that she's describing, isn't it? I know no weariness of my Edward society. He knows none of mine.
Absolutely no knowledge. You have no knowledge of. I mean, my goodness.
This is Titanic, right? This is like This is Hollywood level idiocy about what makes a relationship work. And
relationships are work. They're work.
Yeah.
The idea of the effortless slide into some kind of foggy bliss, that's not even the joy of marriage. Like, it's work, it's difficult, and the beauty is not, that's not where the beauty of it lies and the joy of it lies. It doesn't lie in some kind of like transportation to the seventh heaven of self-referential, narcissistic.
It's so narcissistic. Like,
but it sounds.
If I can just find someone that's exactly like me and they can repair it back to me what I think, it's like,
wait,
how much do you love to yourself? Dude?
I figured it out.
What's that?
The twist is that Rochester is a mirror.
Oh, he's just a mirror.
He's just a mirror.
He's been a mirror the whole time. He says everything I say.
This is Fight Club.
Yeah. Perfect unity of minds.
It would be better if it was.
He looks just like me.
I mean, honestly, this exact same plot could happen with this exact same these exact same characters. And if she just tweaked it to make it a little sadder at the end, a little more complicated.
But guys, we're not dealing with the transcendental themes of love that have come to us from Plato, where Plato said that we have in true love two halves.
True love.
True love.
Marriage.
Marriage. In true love. Hey, no. I am being completely non-facetious right now. We got to consider Plato, that wise teacher.
I'll consider Plato.
That humble teacher.
I'll make a snail out of Plato. I'll roll it up. I'll make it into a thing, and then I'll...
Do you ever make flowers out of Play-Doh?
Smoke it.
You smoke Play-Doh?
You can make really fun little... I had girl cousins. They would make flowers out of Play-Doh. That was really nice.
The only thing I knew, because I'm a dumb male, the only thing I knew is I would roll it into
snakes.
A long thing and then...
Snails or snakes,
snails and snakes.
Those things were fun.
Snails and snakes.
Way better than the Play-Doh. The wise teacher. Saying that his theory of love was, you had these two floating halves and that they had to find one another. And that true love was when these two halves found one another.
Well,
and so here, all we're seeing is the ideal of true love that has existed since the time of our Hellenistic fathers.
No, because you're talking about two very different halves finding each other, and she's talking about two wholes.
But the ideal was unity. Think of the, what's that thing called? The yin yang?
Yeah.
They fit
Thinking about
together.
a bullet going
Very
into my head
And
right
it's
now.
unity. It's unity, this transcendental idea of love
Mhm.
that has existed since time immemorial, Jake.
I got chills.
And so who are we then? Who are we to question our great wise father Plato and Lady Charlotte Bronte?
We are Christians.
Who are we?
sir. We
Because
are readers
who
of
cares?
Jane Austen. We have greater wisdom. We are readers of Proverbs, sir. We have greater wisdom. We are readers of the scripture. We are readers of existence.
That may have been more facetious and sarcastic than I've ever been with this point before.
Brandon, you said it was you'd never been more non-facetious.
Oh, that's right.
And I'm going to hold you to that.
My point being,
Your point being, sir,
and I think I was talking to Nathan about this earlier.
the very same Nathan that's me.
Yes, I realized with F. Scott Fitzgerald, because he comes up in Catcher in the Rye. If you can't tell, we've been reading that to prepare for the next episodes.
Yep.
I realized he was in his 20s when he wrote that book. And you had a lot of people.
You said Fitzgerald.
Yes. He comes up in Catcher in the Rye as one of Holden Caulfield's. He really loves Gatsby.
Yeah.
So Fitzgerald was in his 20s when he wrote Gatsby, you mean?
Yeah, and everybody looks at Gatsby as this great book that teaches us about philosophy and life and wisdom, and you're like, he's a 20-year-old. Have you ever met a 20-year-old, even a smart 20-year-old, that you want to teach you about life and philosophy?
No.
And so here's Charlotte Bronte as a 20-year-old.
In her 20s.
She's spun a great story.
Yeah.
Why should we take what she has to say about love seriously?
We shouldn't.
Yeah.
She has like
And that's why you can't hold your literary darlings so closely. They can write great stories, but don't take their philosophizing seriously, especially when they're in their 20s.
Well, I wonder, it would be interesting because she died in childbirth shortly after marrying a dude, finally, after turning down some other people and having a tumultuous love life. But I would love to read a Charlotte Bronte book written, even a year into marriage where she's just dealing, with the realities.
With the reality of marriage and relationships.
I mean, I'm
like Tolstoy who wrote Anna Karenina later in life after he had children and a marriage, and you can see the wisdom behind Levin and Kitty.
Well, and it's cute and it's fun. I like the joy that he takes in, I don't know what point I'm trying to make, but Tolstoy does a good job of entering into Levin and Kitty's immaturity in a certain way and giving it to us in a way that reminds us all of our own, little romantic moments. The thing with the chalk, it's just like so cute. And the wedding, what is it? He doesn't have the right shirt or something like that.
Yeah.
It's just so like, oh yeah, you get nostalgic,
It's perfect.
It's perfect,
But
but you're not expected to think that that's the pinnacle of human existence. Like Levin needs to grow beyond that.
The problem with Levin is that Levin's an idealist who always needs to be brought back down to earth by the most prosaic things in life and find beauty in the most prosaic things in life. And that's what Tolstoy's sort of a master of.
Yeah, and he marries Kitty, and then he's like, what am I supposed to do with this woman and why? And she had a kid, and I don't know if I love the kid. And what? It's just like, that is the best book we've read, I think.
Oh, it's fantastic.
It's the best.
There may be more likable
Tolstoy.
books. There may be books that on a summer's day I'm more likely to grab.
Coming
but
around the corner.
Yeah.
War and Peace, baby.
I'm looking forward to it, man.
He's a genius.
He's a genius.
Now, the counter-argument is Jane Austen was in her 20s when she wrote her books. The difference is she did not try to force-feed us stupid philosophy about love. All she did was give us discerning observations about human existence and character.
Well, and the humility of Jane Austen is that her stories always stop when the characters get married. And she says they're happy, but she sort of draws the veil and just says, I can't really tell you about that. Like, it just ended.
And that's part of, I think, Austen's humility. I think if Austen had been, first of all, if Austen had gotten married, she probably would have never written books.
Yes.
Because she would have been too occupied with other more important things. But second, had she gotten married, had she had kids, and had she had any space in her life where she felt it was a good use of her time to write books, they would have reflected all those things, and they would have been
wise and discerning.
She was wise enough to stop at what she knew.
That's right.
And to not go beyond it.
And it still gave us more than Bronte gives us with these last chapters.
Yeah, you can imagine what Darcy and Elizabeth's marriage was like. You can imagine Emma and Knightley. She gives us enough, but she doesn't cross beyond the veil.
And that's
stays
because
within her lane.
Right. And that's because Bronte was firmly in that romantic ideal that we could have this transcendental understanding of truth and She desperately wanted, like Byron and Keats and Shelley, to get at this unknowable reality beyond ourselves, and through the fierce work of the individual to get at truth. And that's just not outside of Scripture meant for us.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the sort of this is foolishness.
Yeah.
I think that's what it comes down to. What it boils down to is, ladies, the end of this book is foolishness.
Well, let's talk about that, because there is the romanticism. There's a couple elements that I don't like about this book, or that I think are foolish. One of them is just the romanticism. It's the same thing you'll see in a Hollywood movie or in Titanic, or I'm sorry, kids, if Titanic's not a current reference. I don't know if people still care about Titanic, but Titanic was a thing from my childhood that...
It's far across the distance now.
Yeah, it's far across the distance now. Near, far, wherever they are, I find something.
I believe our two hearts can go on.
I believe our two...
in unity.
In unity. But, so there's that. There's just like it's going to be perfect. Our hearts will be knit together, which is just crap. But there's also this weird 50 Shades-ish thing. We keep saying that. We've said it now for 2 episodes. What do we mean by 50 Shades-ish thing?
Where does it come from?
Yeah,
Let's start with Rochester. I want to save St. John for... We're going to pummel the crap out of St. John here in a second, but let's save him. So there's this scene in the novel, and it's after they're engaged. It's right after they're engaged, and they have their first meeting in the drawing room, and Jane suddenly feels like she needs to control him. And so they're suddenly playing these weird, I dare say, sexual games with each other.
Yeah.
Where...
Yeah.
She's like not giving him what he wants, and she's holding back. And it's super sexual. If you thought it wasn't because you were reading an old book and people didn't have sex back then, sorry,
You're wrong.
You're wrong.
What, Nathan?
No, they did.
Sex in a Victorian novel?
I mean, it's super like.
I thought they had kids by osmosis.
Well, they just divided asexually. Yeah. I don't even know how to talk about this in an appropriate way. It's really 50 Shades-ish. I don't know what else to say about it.
You should just say the next few minutes of the show will be not safe for kids.
All right, if you're driving in your car with your kids right now, then
tell them to plug their ears.
Tell them to and go la 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 la.
Yeah.
Or maybe just turn it off until the kids aren't around.
Or tell your kids to grow up and understand the reality of the world.
You're about to get a truth. You're about to get a taste of reality, kids.
Well, so I don't even know how to define it exactly, but something made me very uncomfortable about the scene. Let's just start with the scene where they're in the drawing room, and I don't even remember what the particulars are. Let's just be honest with our listeners. It's been a little while since we've read this book now.
It's been probably 6 weeks.
We're more geared up for Catcher in the Rye right now than we are for...
I'm not just read up through the Catcher in the Rye. I'm read up through the 2 books after that, or 3 books after that. So
Jake's ahead of the game.
But you remember the scene I'm talking about where she explicitly tells
Jake's
us, the reader,
to get to Midnight's Children.
Yeah, I am too, actually. She explicitly tells the reader, like, I knew I couldn't give him what he wanted, so I had to like play this weird game where I would hold back from him. You guys remember this?
Oh yeah. This is that weird stuff that's happening in the last fourth of the novel.
Yeah.
Yep.
But oh man, how do we talk about it? I don't know. I mean, it's just...
Well, it's exactly what you're saying. It is...
Well, okay, so it's
all power.
Everything with Jane Eyre is about power.
Yes.
Everything's about power. What she's attracted to is power and control, and what she loves is exercising power and control. And that's what everything amounts to. So what is attractive about Rochester is that he is powerful and controlling. And that's something that is beautiful and exotic and thrilling to her. And what she loves to do is to exercise her own control over such powerful men, and to assert that her willingness to be subjected to them is something that she herself controls and that is outside of their control.
Yes.
And so it's all about power dynamics in this really weird way. And so like everything then with St. John is like, he's this really great dude who's going to be this great thing, and she loves the idea of, she can't help herself. She wants to be subjected to somebody as powerful as that. She romances that kind of power. She's willing to suffer. She's willing to die, to be abused by somebody like St. John. She can never love him. There's not the same union of mind, but the power that he has to do great things is something she's willing to give her life, her body, her health, her everything to serve and be subordinate to.
As a sister.
Be subjected to. What'd you say?
As a sister.
As a sister.
Which is what she keeps trying to convince herself at him.
Yeah, but a sister wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
And that's part of the perversion of Jane in Jane's mind and Jane's way of thinking about these things. But Rochester is somebody that she has such a perfect union of mind with that he's the man that she could willingly, of her own volition, completely subject herself to be used by, to be abused by, to be controlled by.
As long as it's on her terms.
On her own terms, exactly.
This is very...
And so these weird power dynamics are what fuel the sexual tension of everything between Jane and Rochester. And the part that you were talking about earlier, that's what it's about. It's about he's going to try and control things. She's going to refuse to be controlled, except on her own terms. And that's going to be, that's erotic. It's all erotic and exciting and invigorating. And so long as she can maintain that, she can keep Rochester interested. If she can't maintain that, if she were to lay down and become like any number of the other women he's subdued, then she loses. She loses his interest and she loses herself. What she has to do is maintain her own sense of control over the situation. That somebody who can fight him back on his own terms, that's erotic to him. And it's all this sort of like eroticization of power.
It's very
and
50
control.
Shades. I mean, I've not read 50 Shades, but my understanding is it's very you can beat me, but it's on my terms.
Exactly.
You can beat me.
So I'm actually in control here.
Right. But you are too, but it's a thing, it's a dynamic, and it's sexy as heck. And yay.
Well, it's wicked.
Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. So, counter argument. This book is not actually sexy. No one has been excited by this book. I mean, sorry. Hopefully, you've turned this off. You've turned this off if you're listening with your kids or whatever. Hopefully, you are no longer doing so. But I feel like if we're going to read Jane Eyre, we should talk about this stuff one way or another. Counter argument. You're reading too much into it.
That nobody has ever been excited by this book.
That's my dumb counter argument that I don't agree with. But yes, I think it's worth making.
I would say
I think there are people listening right now that are saying, "Well, come on, you guys. You can say that there's some sort of Freudian erotic thing, and you're probably right. But at the same time, it's not explicit. It's not."
Y'all don't know how to read. Sorry. That's why you listen to us.
Whoa.
Well,
I was going to say, look at all the movie adaptations. Mm-hmm. And they definitely pick up on the...
Okay, Devil's Advocate. They do that with everything. They do that with Austen.
Fair enough.
They do.
Fair
That's
enough.
true.
You can't. That's no argument.
Yeah, Brandon, that's no argument.
That's no argument. Fine. Jake, what's your argument?
Learn to read.
Devil says, okay, you can make an argument that sex is everywhere, and you're probably right. But this book doesn't actually contain a bunch of sex. You guys are bringing your own sexual perversion to it, and you're making, you keep saying 50 Shades. This is not 50 Shades. This is not pornography. No one is going to become sexually debauched by reading this book. Come on.
Wait.
Devil take it too far there?
Devil took it too far. It's not 50 Shades, but to pretend that people won't become sexually debauched from this book is to be ignorant and foolish. Yeah. What the heck do you think has been so attractive about this book? Exactly. For the past 150 years or however long it's been out.
That's a story of a young woman making her way.
Nope.
The realistic portrayals of the school life in the early parts of the book.
Nope.
The descriptions of landscapes.
The strength of the heroine. The strength of the heroine.
Sure. You can make that
Those
argument.
Amazing watercolors.
Which say absolutely nothing about... guys.
I let me give a morsel to that argument. I will say, I think some of the popularity of this book does have to do with the first third, which is so wonderful and so its own thing.
I'll give you that.
Probably a lot of people power through the second 2/3 because the first third is so strong and so endearing.
In fact, I thought I had heard so much about the first third that I thought Helen was more of an important part of the book than she is.
Mm-hmm.
I was surprised that she was only in like 10 chapters.
Yeah, but then you got those other 2/3, and I think people might actually like those.
And even then, you have the Red Room in the beginning.
Well, I don't know. I brought up this devil, and I think we all agree he's a stupid devil, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
But I want to make you guys engage with him. I want to make me engage with him because I think there's probably people listening that are like, come on, Jane Eyre, erotic? Really? You guys are bringing your own sexiness to your own sexuality to the...
You're reading Catcher in the Rye. That's how he uses the word sexy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You guys are bringing your own sexy to this.
Bringing all sexiness to it.
I mean, there's no explicit mention of anything sexual in this book. And actually, there's not a lot of implicit message of
it's all sexual.
Jake, maybe you equate power with sexuality.
Nope. I don't. Sorry.
What is your evidence, sir? What is your evidence that this book is sexual?
I know how to read.
You know how to read it?
The book is laying right there on the floor.
Ugh.
It's not
My frustration with that devil is to make that argument, you have to choose to be willfully blind to what is right there in front of you in the text of the book. It's not hard to see. It's right there. Nobody has ever, like when the book came out, there's a reason why it was censored. There's a reason why
this was a scandalous book in its time.
It was scandalous. Like people thought it was scandalous for a reason. And the reason, I mean, come on, people, like you want to pretend that you're seeing a book like this with some kind of like super innocent, like y'all people are sinners. They've been sinners for a long time.
Well, and anyone who's ever had a romantic relationship is aware of these dynamics and aware of the way that they become unhealthy. And we frankly can't talk. We're a little bit hamstrung here because I don't think we can talk frankly about why this book is obviously sexual. But
it
is.
Well, it's like this book is sexual, and maybe this will shock people to hear me say this. Jane Austen is sexual too.
Mm-hmm.
Pride and Prejudice is sexual.
What?
Shakespeare is very sexual.
What?
Body, I think is the word that we want.
What about the Marquis de Sade? He can't be sexual.
Oh.
No, he's the one that's not.
Okay.
He's the one that's not, apparently. If Jane Eyre's not. And so, it's like what Jake was saying. It's the way that these power dynamics play out within the relationships that are obviously sexual relationships. You can't get around that. Darcy and Elizabeth's relationship is a sexual relationship, even before they ever get married.
Right.
Right? There is something going on there that has to do with the sex of each of them.
Right.
And the future procreative abilities.
Yep.
And so I'm trying to tiptoe around this too, and it's really not easy.
Well, I suppose you could
And
say
so-
every relationship between a man and a woman is sexual in some sense.
Yeah. And so think about Willoughby and the
We're
way that he
sexual beings,
treats
isn't it?
Darcy's sister, right? We find out about the way that Wickham treated, getting my books mixed up here. The way that Wickham treated Darcy's sister, there's some twisted power play going on there as well, right? With an older man and a younger lady. That book is looked at as being what it is. Here in Jane Eyre, you have the older man and the younger governess, and that power play is looked at as something that is kind of supposed to be appealing.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and a lot of it comes from the fact that this is a Gothic book, and that sort of stuff in the Gothic tradition is just, it's the way it was, that sort of dark overlord, it's the sort of thing that we get now with Twilight in our vampire stories, where you're supposed to find the danger itself to be appealing.
Well, and Christians are just the dumbest people in the world.
I mean, that's the truth.
Because any pagan would be like, well, yeah, the reason everybody likes this book is because it's a bodice-ripping sexual book, and like that, every movie maker would lean into it in a kind of tasteless way, perhaps.
Yes.
But I mean, come on, everybody enjoys this book because not maybe always but everybody enjoys this book with the knowledge that there are sexual elements to it because they're
the
really
final
obvious.
2/3 is just circling around sexual tension.
Yeah, it's just one big power play. And
It's like,
by the way, you can tell good stories about that kind of stuff. Jane Austen does it all the time. I don't think we're arguing that you can't tell a good story about the delicate balance of power between two different people and da-da-da-da-da-da. But this is not a good story of that type. This is a weird one. And
you're right. And there's a difference between
told by somebody who's broken and whose understanding of sexuality and relationships is twisted.
Let me give you
I think look, the same things that give her insight into a broken and abused girl like Jane Eyre are the things that blind her to what healthy and good relationships can be and should be.
Mm-hmm.
Period. And you have to, if you're going to take the one, you have to take the other. If you're going to take the first third and say this is an amazing, insightful, helpful, beautiful portrayal of a broken, abused little girl who manages to overcome a lot of things in her life, then you also need to turn around and say, and that beautifully broken girl has never had a healed and proper understanding of relationships.
No.
And that just has to be true of Bronte as well. It just has to be.
Well, the clincher is St. John, who she gives the last line of the book to as if he's this guy that we should look to. And he is just a straight up villain. He's a gothic villain. Like
He's
you could imagine.
manipulative and
Oh, well, Jane, you need to marry me because you could imagine a more appropriately moral book just casting him as the villain of the piece. I mean,
Yeah.
and he's a great
and
villain.
he could be angry that the pastor / missionary is the villain at that point.
But then
But she
she
just
actually
is
wants to
weird.
imbue him with this twisted nobility. Like she likes him. Like, and I don't mean Jane. I mean Charlotte Bronte. She gives
Yeah.
him the last line. That's insane to me. I mean, that's always. I remember as a kid without really understanding why. The fact that it ends with St. John, like that it gives him the last line and gives him some nobility. It's just like
Comes
what
out of
is
nowhere, yeah.
going on? This is coming out of nowhere because you want to sort of maintain some hope that Charlotte Bronte cast him as the villain because everything that he does is just baldly manipulative, domineering, twisted. I mean, what does he even do? He tells her she has to become a missionary, that God has selected her. I mean, this is the kind of thing that
That
creepers...
she has no. He like prays this big manipulative prayer. Like, you know, it's all about like her salvation is bound up in whether or not she's going to marry him and be the sacrificial lamb that helps him.
How do people think that real Mr. Greys get real submissive women, submissives, whatever you want to call them? How do they think that those actual BDSM relationships, which do exist in this world, happen? They happen because people use manipulative tactics exactly the same, no different than
They
what
make
St. John
themselves
does.
out as some mysterious Batman
Yeah.
who you want to do everything they ask you to do.
I mean, the dumb thing about 50 Shades is that author can't conceive of why you would end up with Mr. Grey unless he was a billionaire and
They
had
fly you around in a helicopter.
right. And the fact is, there's no billionaires in helicopters. Maybe there are, but the real men that are like that are just greasy little guys that talk women into anything because they have that power, and they're exactly like St. John, and they use spiritualism and
But he's going to be
Pharisaicism.
a missionary in
and-
India, Nathan.
Yeah, well, there's always a greater cause. I mean, how did Jim Jones get woman after woman to sleep with him? I mean,
Yep.
how did what's Dianetics guy? What's his name?
L. Ron Hubbard.
Yeah, how did L. Ron Hubbard get these young babes? Because he had a great spiritual cause for them to join in.
Yeah.
That's how manipulative men have been deceiving weak women since day one.
And yet it's part of the immaturity of this book that he's seen as a good alternative to Rochester.
Well, I think I said
these
this.
are the two figures that are shown as good husband material in this book.
Yeah, I mean, it's like if this was Darcy and
Bingley.
Bingley. It's just like, you, sir, I know Mr. Bingley, and you, sir, are no Bingley.
Well, for one, it also just shows you a bit of a big difference, and we made this point with the Jane Austen context, is a big difference between Charlotte Bronte and Jane Austen is their humility.
Mm-hmm.
It shows you a huge difference in the humility of the two authors, in that the two men that Charlotte wanted to imagine as possibilities for herself would be a Rochester or a St. John.
Yep.
Yep.
The people are going to say, no, she's not really holding up St. John because Jane could never
Read the last two paragraphs.
Yeah.
Jane could never have actually been St. John's wife. And so,
Well, Jane certainly thought that Jane should, so I can only take Jane's word for it.
There are some inappropriate ecstasies going on at the end of this book. That's all I have to say.
St. John is unmarried. He will never marry now. Himself has hitherto sufficed to the toil, and the toil draws near its close. His glorious sun hastens to its setting. The last letter I received from him drew from my eyes human tears. I'm glad that she doesn't shed monkey tears, and yet filled my heart with divine joy. He anticipated his sure reward, his incorruptible crown. I know that a stranger's hand will write to me next to say that the good and faithful servant has been called at length into the joy of the Lord. This is the same guy that was telling her, babe, you have to submit your entire life and being to me and die for me, or you're not obeying God.
and you're going to hell.
And you're going to hell. I know that a stranger's hand will write to me next to say that the good and faithful servant has been called at length into the joy of the Lord. And why weep for this? No fear of death will darken St. John's last hour. His mind will be unclouded. His heart will be undaunted. His hope will be sure. His faith steadfast. His own words are a pledge of this. My master, he says, has forewarned me. Daily, he announces more distinctly. Surely I come quickly, and hourly I more eagerly respond. Amen. Even so come, Lord Jesus.
That's a creepy ending to a book.
Yeah.
It's creepy. I think that's probably an appropriate adjective for it.
The best spin I could put on it is that it's pandering. that she knew she had a Christian audience and she couldn't just end with me and Rochester got away with it and got everything we want after his dumb wife burned herself to death.
She's pandering to the jelly bees out there.
So, yeah. Just like, let's give it a little Christian whirl at the end.
Yeah.
I think it's actually entirely possible that that's what she did, but...
It's possible, but still.
But, okay, fine, but go back to all of those scenes. And she's talking about the pleasure that she takes. You know, she just knows no middle ground between absolute control,
subjection,
and domination, and absolute subjection.
Mm-hmm.
And she finds pleasure in both sides because she worships power.
Mm-hmm.
And so either she worships power and subjects herself to it entirely and willingly, or she seizes it and maintains control. But it's power is the idol.
She's going to start learning language for him. She's going to...
Yeah, she's just going to jump through all kinds of hoops, subject herself to all kinds of miseries and things that she doesn't like, and be willing to go with him and die in India because she admires his ambition and his power.
You should have a name, St. John. It's a pretty great name.
That's an interesting name.
Your name is not St. Jake.
Probably should be.
Jake does not like this point. He's looking very unimpressed over there.
Oh, man. Well, I don't know what else to say about this book, guys. Anything you want to say about this book?
The only thing I wanted to say earlier was the lack of wisdom that a lot of people have. And I think it's a particular, you guys mentioned, it's a particular problem with conservative Christians when we approach literature. We just want to pretend like they couldn't have had any sexual thoughts, right, at all. And so there's no way Jane Austen can be sexual. Right. There's no way Shakespeare can be sexual. There's no way Homer can be sexual. And yet, I mean, that one makes me laugh.
Right.
Because that whole book is just full of it. Right. And it's all about him wanting to get home to his wife because all these suitors want her. And he's on an island with a couple of witch goddesses throughout the book. And it's very clear what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And so for us to just hide our eyes from that is just asking for your children when they read these books to be very confused as to why you're not aware.
Yep.
And why they have these thoughts that apparently you're too holy to have ever
and why they exist, in fact, given given your lack of knowledge of human sexuality.
And it's just, it baffles me.
Yeah. That's why I kept circling back to that scene where she's in the drawing room after they're engaged and she decides she's going to play this month-long game with him where she's going to deny him what he wants until their wedding night.
No, I mean, and we talked about this with Alice in Wonderland. This isn't like we're not saying you have to go and point to every instance now and say, look, what's going on?
Right.
But just don't be unaware of it.
Well, that leads us to an important question, Brandon.
Mm-hmm.
Do you give the BSOA to Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte?
Oh, yeah.
The Bookening seal of approval.
Yeah, sure.
Yep.
I do.
Jake, same question?
Yeah, I do.
So everyone should read this book?
No.
Not everyone.
Got the Bookening seal of approval. Doesn't that mean people should read it?
Find it doesn't get it.
Who doesn't get it?
No, the book doesn't get it. Then not everyone should read this book.
It's a qualified Bookening seal of approval.
All right. That was my point. Go ahead and qualify it.
Anyone who would be tempted to read 50 Shades of Grey should not read this book.
Okay. Jake, your qualifications?
I would be very hesitant to give this book to any young woman, certainly not to my daughters.
Yeah, Jake, I'm with you. I don't think young women should read this book, but I do give it the Bookening seal of approval. I really don't think women should read this book.
What, Nathan?
Actually. No, I just don't think women should read this book.
No.
And that's
it's because you think women can't read.
I don't think that women should read unless we're talking about a Betty Crocker book or another recipe book.
Yeah.
Book on how to massage your husband's feet.
Sure.
No, that would be good too, yeah.
I am... How much am I joking? I am, let's say I'm 60% joking, but I'm going to say there's 40 misogynist scent of me that's just oh man, I don't know that I'd recommend this book to my fiance because she's going to want to play weird power games with me after she reads this thing and she's going to expect a level of relationship. Now, is my fiance smart enough to not? Yeah, probably. So I guess she could read the book. But also, just in the same way she might not want me to read certain books because even though I'm smart enough to know better, still I don't really need some dumb things reinforced for me. Maybe this is a book that she doesn't really need to read because even though she's smart enough to know better, she doesn't need some dumb things. I'm hedging a lot here because I don't want to come off as a sexist jerk, but, this is a really good, well-written book. which means it's a really effective piece of propaganda. So I think we should give it the dignity of taking it seriously and saying this book actually could change someone's opinion or influence the way someone thinks about romance.
Well,
Let's not be double-minded.
It's going to
in this.
shape it.
Yeah,
It's going to shape it. We do this stuff. We talk about this stuff because art's powerful to shape our affections.
And we may be
it doesn't matter what you say or think you believe objectively. If you allow trash to shape your heart, to shape your affections, to shape the way you feel about things, it's going to change the way you think about them.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's a lot to love about this book, but there's a lot of trash.
Yeah, there really is.
Poison. Trash is too weak. There's a lot of poison in here.
Namely, the last half of the book.
Yeah.
And men, we're equal opportunity haters, and don't worry, we are quickly approaching a book where I will be offering the same advice Nathan's offering to women here, that in a young man, never read it.
Same. Talking about The Catcher in the Rye, guys.
Yep. Young men.
Young men, no.
No.
I do not want
Older
my
men
son.
who want to feel the pain.
Remember how terrible it was?
Who want to cringe at themselves and their stupidity and their foolishness in their younger years, go right ahead.
Knock yourself out. It's going to be fun.
But
It'll
my
be a
son-
nice little masochistic journey back through the mind of yourself when you were in your teens.
Yep.
Good grief.
Good grief.
Who needs that?
Well,
Are you saying that there's gender-specific considerations for who should read what, Nathan?
Yeah.
Oh, man, you sexist pig.
Yep. All right, guys, very quickly.
I got it.
All right, Brandon, you're going to shout them out. Jake, you're going to say whether they're phony or corny, which is we're one episode ahead in terms of thematic linking here.
Ooh.
Or you can say whether they're a Rochester or a St. John. So we'll insult all our listeners here.
Sure.
Or a Jane or a Helen if it's a woman.
Oh, boy.
Or if it's a couple, then you can do some combination.
You're just looking to offend people, Nathan.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
And you can do combinations like Helen and Rochester. You can combine any kind of pairing from this book that you can make up.
Jay and Katie, who are cold and love cheese.
Brandon, wait until I give you the signal.
You
for
were
crying out loud.
going
Robert
way
and
too
Rhonda,
long
the
with that.
Lovebirds.
Robert and Ron to the Lovebirds.
Sheesh.
We're insulting everyone.
Oh, right.
They have perfect unity of mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Rochester and Jane.
Yeah.
The immortal Chelsea C.
My dad's going blind.
Helen.
The immortal Chelsea C.
Yep, Helen. You're
Yeah,
Helen.
I mean, she's immortal because she's dead.
Yep. Nathan, not me.
Nathan, not that guy.
Helen.
He's also Helen. Jimmy Beam and Little
Just kidding,
Annie.
Nathan. Sorry.
Jimmy Beam. Here, St. John, if ever there was one. Jimmy Beam and Little Annie Oakley.
He's doing it for me.
Well,
Jimmy Beam and... No, I was
you
going
still
back.
gotta
I was
tell us-
adding to that conversation. Jimmy Beam and Little Annie Oakley. Jake?
I'm giving you Jane and Rochester.
Janet and Rochester. Good job.
I see it.
Lily of the Valley.
Lily of the Valley.
Jane.
Just Jane? Okay, cool. Good for you, Lily. Andrew and Esther, the Lovebirds.
Andrew and Esther, the Lovebirds.
I'm going with Rochester and the Creole Demoniac.
Rochester and the Creole Demoniac. I love it.
I wonder what St. John and Helen would have been like as a couple.
Oh,
Probably perfect.
the
for one
most
another.
oppressive. Can you imagine going to their house? Yuck.
We are now transcending into the third heaven.
Oh, boo. Boo to them as a couple. Really, I defended Helen, but I cannot imagine wanting to be married to Helen.
Uh-huh.
The inscrutable Jenny Z.
I was right all along. The inscrutable Jenny Z.
Mrs. McGonagall.
What is her name? I was
From Harry Potter.
I agree that the inscrutable Jenny Z
the
should be
type. You know, the one that McGonagall's like, there's like the
her.
character.
Temple?
Miss Temple, yeah.
Miss
Miss
Temple.
Temple, yeah. That.
The Keith Master.
The Keith. Oh, the Keith Master.
Mr. Brocklehurst.
John and Jill and little baby Max.
John and Jill and little baby Max.
St. John and Jane.
St. John and Jane. David's Farm Man Trucking.
David's Mighty Men Trucking.
The inn owner.
The inn owner, the guy that tells her about what happened to Rochester.
Yeah,
I like
that
that. Jay and Katie, who are cold and love cheese.
Jay and Katie, who are cold and love cheese.
Aw. They're the cute couple that like serve Rochester and Jane.
Oh, and a new one.
What?
I like this. I think she's new. E-M-I-L-Y Emily.
What?
E-M-I-L-Y Emily.
E-M-I-L-Y Emily.
Yeah.
E-M-I-L-Y Emily.
EMIY Emily, I have hardly known you. I think you've got to be one of Mr. Rochester's sisters.
Mrs. Rochester have sisters?
Mr. St. John's sisters.
She
is
could be
what
the
I meant.
gypsy.
She could be the gypsy. No,
No,
Emily's new.
No,
Hey,
she's one
Emily.
of St. John's sisters.
Yeah, they're nice.
That's what I meant when I
And
said
welcome to
Rochester.
Emily. You guys happy that Emily's joined us?
So happy. Thank you, Emily.
What a warm family we have now because
Yeah.
of you, Emily.
And the woe-bedraggled wizard of yore, Fletcher.
The woe-bedraggled Wizard of Yore, Fletcher. Hey, buddy.
The woe-bedraggled Wizard of Yore, Fletcher. He's the uncle.
Yeah.
The uncle.
The
dead
uncle who
uncle.
bequeathed his fortune to Jane.
Oh, Fletcher's going to die
Giant.
and play no important part besides giving us all money.
Hey, he gave us money.
Fletcher is going to grow into a sweet, good old man who's made a lot of money and who bestows his kindness on his niece who has never had a good thing happen to her before.
I like it.
Well done, Fletcher.
Well done, Fletcher.
Bravo, Fletcher.
Pretty good name for a novel. Well done, Fletcher. The Artful Anthony Dodger.
Is this the same Fletcher that wrote us a letter?
Yes, it is, actually. I'm pretty sure.
Fletcher, you got a letter coming your way.
To who? Who do you write it to? Us?
No. I mean,
Yeah.
to all of us, yes.
The Artful Anthony Dodger.
He's the lawyer.
Oh, that guy was cool. I like that lawyer. Really likable character. Nicely done, Anthony. The dark-hooded Lord of Death himself, Jeremy.
Rochester.
The dark-hooded Lord of Death.
Rochester.
The beautiful, incandescent, marriageable Meredith.
The beautiful, incandescent, marriageable Meredith.
If ever there was a Jane.
Talk about it, yeah.
Love you, Meredith.
Not in the
Obviously, she is attracted to power.
Oh,
yes. Joanna? Jumpin' Judo Joanna.
Jumpin' Judo Joanna.
Helen.
Yep. Sorry, Joanna.
No question. No, nothing to be sorry about.
Maya!
Jane.
Rockin' Ryan and Judo Judith.
Rockin' Ryan and Judo Judith.
The servant couple who served Jane in Rochester at the end of the thing.
Yeah, they're good. Danny the Dude.
Danny the Dude. Mrs. Reed's son.
Sorry, Danny the Dude. I think Brandon called it.
You're going to get addicted to drugs and kill yourself.
Yeah, don't
Apparently.
do that, Danny the Dude. DJ Sammy G.
DJ Sammy G. Wicca Wicca.
The other dead uncle. The dead uncle who's like, wife, you take care of this
Oh, Mr.
girl."
Reed, I guess.
Mr. Reed, yeah.
DJ Sammy G is Mr. Reed. Benny and Dana T.
Benny and Dana T.
St. John and Helen.
Eric and Catherine, the Lovebirds.
Eric and Catherine, the Lovebirds.
Mr. and Mrs. Reed.
Professor X and Lady X.
Professor X and Lady X.
St. John and Jane.
San John on Jane. That's it. Thanks for listening, everybody. Hey, thanks everybody for listening. We'll be back next week with Catcher in the Rye. I think we are going to get around to that Jane Eyre movie one of these days because I'd like to watch it. Brandon says it's pretty good. I tend to trust Brandon's judgment on things. And yeah, that'll be good. Hooray. Thanks for oh, and you can support us at patreon.com/thebookening.
Do it.
Yeah.
Do it.